cigarettes, which is much more likely that he will do. He can't invest in anything. He doesn't have a bank account. This, I know the story means well, but it makes no sense, and all I can see are the flaws, and all I can point out is how this does not happen in real life. And this story is supposed to be something that happens in real life. It's supposed to be, right, real life, it's supposed to, we're supposed to believe this actually happened, right? That's where our suspension of disbelief is supposed to come in, to convince us that yes, Spider-Man is real, and that he really encountered, this situation, really knows these people, really met these people, that all of this actually happened. And yet, you show stuff that would never happen. You keep writing a story that would never happen in New York City. So anyway, after Peter has this meal, I guess you could call it, with the three homeless people, he comes back to his apartment building. He notices that there are two black cars rolled up on the building, and they look like they're straight out of like a 1930s gangster movie. He comes into the apartment building, and there's this one weird panel where Peter's supposed to be running up the stairs because he realizes that these people have come for his neighbor, who I believe her name is Leilani. So there's this panel where he's running, but he's not running up the stairs. He's running up the banister. He's running up the banister of the stairwell, which doesn't make any sense. First of all, it actually puts him in a sense out of focus, because as the viewer, right, Peter's actually shown further away from us, and he's on an angle because he's running up the banister. So it looks weird, because it's like, why would he run up the banister? Why? It doesn't make any sense. There is no need to show off his parkour skills in this scene. He's supposed to be dramatically running toward the problem, not trying to show off. What the artist should have done, what Mr. Cabal should have done, is go with your standard, putting the hero in the center, their faces is, toward us. It should look like he's running toward the reader, right? Instead of running up the banister of a stairwell. Why would he do this? It does not make any sense. So anyway, Peter gets here, and Leilani's door has been broken down. She's surrounded by three 1930s mobsters in these very nice suits. And they ask him, what he's doing there. He tries to play it off, say that he's just a delivery boy. Then they ask him how she knows his name. Again, he tries to play it off. Now, his spider sense tells him that the guy who's confronting him is about to hit him. So he tries to move his head to dodge the punch. Then the next panels indicate that he got hit in the face once, and got hit so hard that he flies through the wall. Right, he got literally one punch through the wall and was knocked out. I'm sorry, but I don't buy this for a second. One of the reasons why people like Spider-Man so much is because he's scrappy. It's because he's actually very difficult to put down. Now the dialogue, I guess you could say the script tries to justify it by saying that the person who hit him hits almost as hard as the Hulk. Even if that's the case, I don't buy it. Because this scene, having him knocked out from one punch, makes Peter look weak. It makes him look ineffectual as a hero, whether he's in or out of costume. I think that it would have been better had Peter, for example, tried to fight the 5 people who were surrounding Leilani. Have him attack them. Have him, try to fight them off. Scream at her to run and all that. Have them beat him down. Right? People understand a 5-on-1 situation. They understand that's unfair. Right? People don't get mad if the hero loses in unfair fight, but people do get mad if the hero doesn't even try. And by having Peter be knocked out, it looks like he didn't even try. You know how in pro wrestling, how one of the most like overused tropes is to have the bad guy and his cronies jump the good guy? The reason why it works is because it makes the bad guy look bad. He gets heat, right? The fans get mad at him, and it makes the face or the good guy in the situation still look strong, because it shows heart and it shows courage to fight a battle that you know you can't win, but you still try. People respect that. People respect heart and courage. People respect going down fighting, even as it's an impossible, unfair situation. People don't mind if the hero loses, due to impossible odds, but tried anyway. People eat that stuff up, whether it be in movies, TV, wrestling, anything else. But when you do this, when you take the hero of your story and you literally have him knocked out with one punch, I don't care if this dude is nearly as strong as Hulk. He still got knocked out with one punch. You made Peter look weak. He's the hero of the story. You don't make the hero of your story look weak. I'm sorry, I just had to get it off my chest. So once Peter wakes up, there's this supposedly comedic moment when he goes back to his apartment and he encounters his roommate, who apparently is also a small-time crook, and his roommate is wearing his underwear. All I have to say is, and by his underwear, I mean he's wearing Peter's underwear. First of all, why does Peter Parker have pink tiger striped underwear that barely right up to his hips? And two, ew. Anyhow, Peter goes to his room, begins to change into his Spider-Man outfit, and then his roommate shouts from the other side of the door that Leilani left some laundry for Peter to do. Peter is confused. He opens the laundry basket, and these two orange-faced kids pop out. And that's how the story ends. There's also another nitpick I want to make, which is and why not? It's because earlier in the story, when Peter is told about his supposedly terrified neighbor, the old lady gives him a bag of apples. The apples are actually eventually seen, right? Peter gives the girl an apple. The apple looks like a blood red orange. And nothing in the dialogue ever indicates that the apple doesn't look right. So all I can assume is that the artist, or the colorist maybe it's more on the colorist than the artist, but the colorist, I'll say, does not know what an apple looks like. Apples usually, they vary in shades of red. I'll admit that. Some are lighter, some are darker. But apples are not the same shade as blood red oranges. How do you get this wrong? And not just wrong in one panel, but wrong in several panels. It is infuriating. It is absolutely infuriating. I did not feel like let me just get back to the story for a moment. So the story ends there. The main story ends there with the two kids revealed. There's then a letter section, which I'm not even addressing because it's just Nick Lowe stroking his own ego and possibly other parts of his body. And then after that, there's this little side story about Aunt May. Apparently she might have cancer or something. And again, it just makes no sense. Peter begins to follow her because he's worried. That makes sense. He gets distracted because he breaks up a fight where, kids are picking on another boy. That makes sense. Peter then decides randomly, although he was again tracking his beloved Aunt May because he's worried for her safety. After he breaks up this fight, instead of, trying to go find Aunt May again, he decides to hitch a ride on the school bus and lecture the kids about bullying. Because that makes sense to Spider-Man's characterization. Because Spider-Man would totes do that when he's supposed to be tracking his beloved Aunt May, who was not honest with him in earlier dialogue, hence why he's following her. Another panel shows Aunt May coming to a hospital, and Mayor Fisk is giving a very, public politician speech. Aunt May walks up to him, calls him a criminal, and then walks into the hospital. Okay. Whenever the mayor of New York City has a public appearance, right, where he's making a public speech, that man is surrounded by bodyguards, that man is surrounded by police officers. Because guess what? Little old ladies can put little old guns into little old purses, and if they get too close, they can draw the little old gun from the little old purse and shoot the mayor. That's why they don't allow people to get close to the mayor. If this was bound to any sense of reality or common sense, guess what? The moment Aunt May approached him, 5 guns would have been pulled on her, and she would have been arrested for approaching him. Anyway, she then goes to the hospital, and there's a possibility of cancer, and that's where the book itself ends. This was a dumb story. This was an insult to my intelligence. I don't mind the general premise of the Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. Peter Parker, is a good guy, and he saves people, and he helps little old ladies, and he checks on neighbors. The premise is fine. I like that. I was hoping that this would be a very feel-good story. And it would have been if it first and foremost had not been a stupid story. I don't understand how a professional writer like Tom Taylor does not think about what he is writing, does not research what he's writing about, does not consider what is more plausible than not to happen in a situation, which could happen in real life, right? Spider-Man isn't real. Spider-Man isn't going to swing in and save the day, but a car veering off a bridge and about to collapse, that's uncommon in New York City, but it's not unheard of. That's something that could happen. I mean, Tom, did you read any newspapers, any news articles about that, or even similar situations, like, for example, a crane falling, a building exploding, a building collapsing, something to give you an idea of how New York City responds when stuff like that happens? Because I don't think you did, and I live here. I can tell you how New Yorkers will respond because I am a New Yorker. But you are not. And apparently, you did not do your research because simple stuff that should be there isn't there. And I'm also going to call out the editors, Nick Lowe and Kathleen Wineski. Okay, Tom Taylor, as much as I don't like his writing, did not write this alone. He did not publish this alone. He did not edit this himself. You two are the editors. Lowe, you're the main editor. Wineski, you're the assistant editor. Why the hell, when this story was being written, when it was passed on your desk, why didn't you read it and point out the various errors in this story? How there's gaps in logic, gaps in continuity, gaps in behavior from these characters. Why didn't you notice that the woman who's supposedly living in fear is not terrified? How do you not notice these things? How do you not know that having your hero knocked out from one punch makes him look weak, not strong? I didn't feel like a reader reading this issue. And again, I read it twice and skimmed it once. So I have looked over it several times now. I felt like an editor. I felt like a frustrated editor who's wondering, what the hell is this? And I repeat, what the hell is this? Do you have no care, no pride for what you do for a living? Because I read this for free on the internet. I didn't spend money, and I would not spend money on this, because this is not worth money. It is not worth the time, the brain power, the energy that I spent reading this several times over. You have wasted something that is precious to me, that unlike money, I cannot get back. Do better. Do better. How in the world you can sit there and allow the company you work for to release this is beyond me. I am very glad that I saw the Yellow Flash review for the second issue and read the second issue first. Because if I hadn't, if this was the very first Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man issue I'd read, I would never read another one again. Now, I'm going to do a review of the second one, and I'm going to give the third one a chance. But the third one is the last chance I'm giving it. If the third one is trash, I'm not reading this for months at least, if ever again. Because this issue was so offensive to me. As a reader, it insults my intelligence. I know that might sound hyperbolic, but it is true. If you want to read this online, do not spend your money. It ain't worth it. It isn't even worth your time. But if you just want to look at it and see what I said and compare and see why I am so legitimately upset, read it online. And I think you will understand. Fortunately, issue 2 is head and shoulders above this. But issue 1 gets a big, fat, ugly F. Anyway, that's my review. I didn't intend to go this long, but who am I kidding? I'm pretty much the Aiden Paladin of comics now. I never know how to make a video that's under a half hour. Anywho, this is the review. Tell me what you liked, what you didn't like. Tell me if you agree or if you think I'm nuts. You might be right on that. So have a good weekend. I'll be out with the review of Spider-Man, Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man 2 at some point this weekend, and then I'll be doing a review of Goddess Mode. Oh God, I'm not looking forward to that. Anyhow, have a good weekend. Thank you. Bye.